Hello everyone, I am Jitinder Bhandari and today I am going to talk about the concept of dumping. Why we are discussing the concept of dumping? Because the concept of dumping is in news recently. These are some of the headlines I have taken from Economic Times. If you see, there are a lot of news on anti-dumping duty, Malaysian calculator anti-dumping duty for 5 years, anti-dumping duty likely to on black toner in powder form from China, India initiate anti-dumping duty probe against aluminum foil imports from China, faster initiation of anti-dumping probes on China, and so many other news. So if you see in recent past, India is putting a lot of anti-dumping duty, majorly on China, but otherwise also from Malaysia, from Korea, export or import coming from. We are importing goods and other products from Malaysia, Vietnam, etc., Korea, China, and we can see that in recently India is putting a lot of anti-dumping duty against these products. So let us understand what is dumping and then why a country puts anti-dumping duty on, not all of course, on some of the products, right? So let us first explain the concept of dumping. Then only it will be easy for us to understand the concept of anti-dumping, against dumping, right? So what is dumping? Dumping happens when a country or a firm exports an item at a price lower than price of the product in its domestic market. So let me give you an example. If a firm sells its product at two different prices, that is X price in domestic market and Y price in foreign market. And that's not all. In foreign market, they sell it at cheaper price, whereas in the domestic market, same commodity they sell at a higher price. So that's an interesting point. So what the company is doing, what the firm is doing, they are selling at a higher price in the domestic market, and the same product they are selling at a cheaper price in the foreign market, right? To give a little technical definition, I am quoting Professor Jacob Weiner. Dumping is a price discrimination between two markets in which the monopolist sells a portion of his product at a lower price and the remaining part at a higher price in the domestic market. He is also saying the same thing. So domestic market low price, higher price, and in the foreign market at a higher price. But that's interesting. Why I'm saying it is interesting? So in foreign market, suppose let's take two country, India and China. So what we are saying that a Chinese company selling Chinese goods at a cheaper rate in India, what they are charging for the same good in China. So in China they are selling at a higher price, in India they are selling at a lesser price. But then nothing wrong in this. As a consumer, as a customer, if I'm getting the same product at a cheaper price, I should not be bothered about this. For example, if I'm getting a Xiaomi mobile phone cheaper in India compared to China, how does it matter? In fact, I should be happy. As a customer, I should be happy. So where is the problem? And this also leads to a bigger issue here, issue of international trade. So what happened in international trade? Why we import something from outside? We import something from outside in two situations. Either we are not been able to produce it domestically, and second, it is a possibility that we can produce it domestically, but we are producing at a higher price. So that is why we are importing from other market, because the same thing is available at a cheaper price, right? So this is what the international trade logic is. So where is the question of dumping in this case? I hope you are getting my point, what I'm trying to convey. What I'm trying to tell you is, it is usually the case that we get uh, international trade, goods through international trade at a cheaper price, because we are not been able to produce the same commodity at the same price. So we are, because we are little inefficient. This is what the purpose of international trade is. So India export certain things to European countries, to America, to all over the world. those commodities, those products which they either may not be able to produce, or if they try to produce, it will cost them more. So they want it from India. For example, tea. I'm just giving you an example. For example, oil. Oil in India is not available, or even if it is available, the cost of extracting oil may be too high. So it's better to import from Middle East and some other countries. So then where is the problem? So let us understand the concept in little detail, then the problem part of it. So so there are various types of dumping: sporadic dumping, predatory dumping, persistent dumping, and reverse dumping. So what is sporadic dumping? It happens sometime, that is sometime because of excess production, because of some changes in rules and regulation, some changes in domestic market. So sometime a firm occasionally selling the product at a cheaper price, right? So this type of dumping is not a issue here. Then I'm skipping the second one, I'm coming to the third one first. Persistent dumping. In this case, this is little more serious in nature, because in this case the company in question, the firm in question, is continuously dumping its product at a cheaper price to the foreign market. Why they are doing it? There could be some reason. So if the reason is they are doing it deliberately to garner the share, domestic market share, and then killing the competition in the foreign country, then the same thing is known as predatory dumping. So predatory dumping is with the objective in mind that we need to kill. The company is thinking that I am doing this deliberately, and I'm selling it at a cheaper price so that I can finish the competition there, and then I can rule the market. Then this type of dumping is predatory dumping. But otherwise, if you are doing it persistently, but not with the objective of controlling the market in the foreign country, then it is known as persistent dumping. Whereas in the case of reverse dumping, it is little different. So what happened so far, we are explaining that a firm is selling at a cheaper price in the foreign market and at a little higher price in the domestic market. Now in case of reverse dumping, what happens, that firm sells at a cheaper price in the domestic market and little higher price in the foreign market. So why it happens? Because they now the threat is in the domestic market. So probably more competition, more number of firms. So they think that let me reduce my price in the domestic market in order to fight the competition, whereas they are little better off, not much competition in the foreign market, so they can sell at a little higher price. So are you getting this point? In reverse dumping, you are selling at a lesser price in your own economy, in the domestic economy. Okay. Now if you notice, we are talking about charges. We are talking about charging different price. So this charging different price is known as price discrimination. So this topic is in detail in monopoly, but right now I am just touching upon the relevant portion here. So if you see the diagram, I'm just trying to explain you the concept of dumping with the help of this diagram. If you see diagram 1 and diagram 2, let's suppose this is for country X, diagram 1, and diagram 2 is for country Y, whereas diagram 3 is the summation of these two diagrams. Now what happened, if you see the average revenue and marginal revenue curve, the slope is different. Those who are a little bit aware of about economics, they understand this average revenue curve is nothing but the demand curve, and this is the marginal revenue curve, and this MR is equal to MC is the equilibrium of the firm. Here, the firm decides the output. So in country A, the firm is deciding the output where the marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, and they are producing Q1 level of output, but they are charging price P1. Whereas in country B, the condition for equilibrium remains same. MR is equal to MC. This is MC curve, by the way, this horizontal line, and this is MR curve. And they are deciding to produce Q2 level of output in country B. But if you see, the slope of average revenue curve in both country is little different. In case of country A, this is foreign market, a foreign country, this is domestic country, right? Now, if you see, the slope in the foreign market is little less elastic. So what do you mean by that? If the slope of the demand curve is little less elastic, a firm can charge a little high price. A small correction, this is for home country and this is for foreign country. A firm can charge little high price. Whereas if the competition is more and the demand curve, that is why the demand curve is more elastic, you can see the slope here. This is more flatter and this is more straighter, right? So here, even though the condition of equilibrium remains same, but now the firm is charging little less price. So this is what we have said in the beginning. What happened in the case of dumping? In case of dumping, a company charges higher price in the domestic market and lesser price in the foreign market. And then this is the summation. So let us focus on diagram 1, diagram 2 only. This is the total output and total price charged by the company, right? So let us focus here only. But students, still the reason or the negatives or the disadvantage of dumping is not very clear. So let me brief you again. So in case of dumping, a company or firm charges two different type of prices. One price, cheaper price in domestic market, and a higher price in the domestic market and cheaper price in the foreign market, right? And how did they do this? This has been explained with the help of this diagram. When the elasticity of demand is different in two different countries, where the elastic demand is more flatter, that is more elastic, they charge less price. Where the elastic demand is more steeper, that is less elastic, they charge higher price. So the question is, what's wrong in this? As I said in the beginning, if a firm is selling its product at a little less price, what's wrong in this? So it's now we are going into the problem part of it. So my dear students, so long as it is happening because of the elasticity of demand being different, or because the situation, sporadic dumping, as I said, once in a while you have excess of, let's say, excess of tomato, excess of agriculture production, India having excess of potato production, and then rather than wasting here and there, okay, they are saying, the farmers are saying, okay, let us sell at even if at a cheap price in the foreign market. So that kind of situation, so we should not be worried about. The problem arises when these things happens, or dumping happens, or selling at a cheaper price happens because of a particular reason or because of a particular strategy, and rather I should say, if it happens deliberately, then this leads to problem. So what is the problem here? If you're doing it deliberately, even though it costs you more, but still you are selling it at a cheaper price in the foreign country because you want to destroy the competition there, because you want to capture the market there, then it's a problem area. That is why then the government has the right to put anti-dumping duty. Now, what is anti-dumping duty? Duty is tax, right? And anti means against. So against dumping, you can put duty. Please be careful here. Again, I am telling you, it's not normal that a firm is selling its product at whatever price. This is between importer and exporter. The government should not bother. But if the domestic producer have made a formal complaint against certain product to their government, let's say in India. So if the leather manufacturers are telling government of India that import from China is fall into the category of dumping because they are selling at a very cheaper price in India, whereas the same commodity, when they are selling in their own economy, they are charging higher price. So sir, our doubt is that they are doing it deliberately, and it is the case of dumping. Then what happened in that case? Government of India can have a thorough investigation. And in India, this investigation is carried out by DGTR, Directorate General for Trade Relations. It's a quasi judicial body. and they carried out a thorough investigation. Student, let us understand this also, because it's not easy to prove, dumping, because just merely saying that they are selling at a cheaper price is not dumping, right? It will be dumping only when the cheaper price is collaborated with the intention of doing it deliberately. Now, because it's difficult to prove, so it takes time. But a government has the power to investigate. Then they collect the data, they conduct interviews, they cross check from other countries, etc. And then formally they decide, yes, it's a true case of dumping, or maybe it's not a case of dumping. It's a false claim by the domestic producer. Now, so in that case, uh, if the DGT are able to prove that yes, this particular commodity, this particular product comes under the dumping category, then they have the right to put anti-dumping duty. So what happens? Suppose the product should have been sold at rupees 100 in India, but they are selling at rupees 80 in India. Then what the DGTR will do? They will put 20 rupees as anti-dumping duty. So 80 plus 20, it becomes 100 rupees. So which they should have been selling in India. But and by the way, this is permissible under WTO, means anti-dumping duty, even though WTO don't want too many duties. WTO wants freer trade, less restrictions, less tariff. But in case of dumping, if the government of a country able to prove that some other country is doing dumping there, then even WTO allows you to put anti-dumping duty in that particular case. But students, let us be clear here, that the negative is that if a country is dumping its commodity in other country, then surely it is harmful for the domestic producer, because they will not be able to compete in case of dumping. Now, by the way, this dumping can be because of deliberate policy of the foreign government as well. So they can give export subsidy to their exporter, cheaper electricity, and less tariff, less restriction, thereby promoting their export and telling them, you export, don't worry about the cost. We will bear the cost on your behalf, or we will give you your money back, subsidize your expenditure, right? So in that case, the foreign company able to sell their product, even though their cost is high, but they are still selling at a lesser price because the government there is compensating them, right? So this is not a level playing field. This is not fair trade practice. Now I'm using two terms here, so please listen to me carefully. Fair trade practice and level playing field. Fair trade practice means you are doing your business fairly. So whatever your cost, fair enough. If you are able to produce at a cheaper price, you have all the right to sell at a cheaper price, right? This is what economics is, law of demand. At a lesser price, more demand. So whether you are a domestic company or a foreign company, it doesn't matter. So you have all the right to sell your product at a cheaper price. But the problem arises if you're selling your product at a cheaper price, not because you are efficient, not because your cost is less, but because your government is supporting you, but because your government is giving you wage subsidy, your government is giving you export subsidy, your government is providing you cheaper electricity, etc., etc. And that is why you able to sell it at a lesser price. Then this is not fair trade practice. Then in that case, the domestic producer will suffer. Similarly, level playing field. So in country A, let's say in India, we are following all the rules and regulation of WTO, and that is why our cost is little high. Whereas in the other country, some other country, they are not going by the rules and regulation. So this is not level playing field. So in both these situation, if we able to prove that the country is not following the fair trade practices and not creating the level playing field, then the other country has the right to put anti-dumping duty on their product, right? But just to summarize this and to end this, I would say there is one element which is missing here. So this is what happened in most of the international trade discussion. So far, if you have noticed, we have discussed from the point of view of producers, right? But there is one more, you know participant in the market, that is consumer. But it so happen most of the time producers able to convey their message to government, but consumers don't have much say when it comes to anti-dumping duty and all. Why I'm saying so? Because remember in the beginning that we are getting at a cheaper price, right, as a consumer. So I doesn't matter as long as I'm getting at a cheaper price. So whether it's a domestic company or a foreign company, it doesn't matter to me, right? Yeah, of course, if you don't involve enemy country and this and that, so I'm not going into the politics of it. I want to keep myself into economics only. But usually government think or think more from the producer side, and then they investigate, and and then they put anti-dumping duty. But politics can play from both sides. As I said, in foreign company, a foreign country, if they are doing politics, deliberately putting the price low, same can happen in the our economy also. Maybe we, in order to support the domestic producer, we are also doing the same, that okay, it seems that they are fair, but because we want to protect you, so still we would say no, 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 we think that this is the case of dumping, and that is why we are putting anti-dumping duty. So these are some interesting question. uh, so with this, I hope you like this video, and please subscribe my channel, Simplified Economics. In coming days, I will be putting many more videos which will help you to understand the concept of economics, which will help you to understand the economy better, and maybe you will be able to take the right decision, whether you're a student or professional, or a researcher, right? Thank you. All the best. Stay safe.